Have you ever gone on a late-night drive and felt lost on a long, empty road? Tonight, I'll share a chilling rumor surrounding the Rockford University, California, how a group of students ventured into a mysterious forest that shouldn't have existed. Did they make it out safely, or was it their final journey? So dive in with us until the end, and let's uncover all the answers. The Wraith of the Whispering Woods. It was 12:30 a.m., and a bus full of tired college students was making its way through a dark forest, returning from a field trip to Rockford. After a fun day, most of us had fallen asleep, lulled by the rumble of the engine and the thick darkness outside. Mr. Williams and Mr. Carter, our teachers, were dozing off too, while Joe, the older driver, fought to stay awake. The forest was eerily quiet, too quiet. Suddenly, Joe slammed on the brakes. We jolted awake to see a group of wild deer standing frozen in front of the bus, their eyes glowing in the headlights. For a moment, it felt like they were staring straight at us. Joe grumbled something and continued driving, but a feeling of unease settled in the air. Liam, who always kept to himself, sat at the back of the bus. He woke up and realized he needed to use the bathroom. He hesitated before asking Mr. Williams to stop the bus. Mr. Williams, sounding tired, told him to wait until we were out of the forest. But the trees seemed to stretch on forever, and the dark forest felt more frightening with each passing minute. Finally, we reached a clear, empty stretch of road. The moonlight barely lit the ground, casting long shadows. Liam tapped Mr. Williams again, and the bus stopped in the middle of nowhere. The cold night air made us shiver as Liam and Ryan, another student, stepped out into the darkness to relieve themselves. Minutes passed in silence before we suddenly heard a terrified scream. We shot upright in our seats, hearts racing. Mr. Williams and a few of us rushed outside, only to find Ryan sitting on the ground, crying out in pain. He had stepped on a sharp rock. We nervously laughed, but the unease lingered. Something felt wrong. The night air was thick, and it seemed like something was watching us. As we were about to get back on the bus, a figure appeared from the shadows. A man on a battered motorcycle. He looked worn out, his face pale and gaunt. In a gravelly voice, he warned us about a wraith, a malevolent spirit that hunted lost travelers in these woods. He said we were in its territory. Mr. Williams dismissed him, shaking his head, but the man's unsettling gaze stuck with us as he rode away. We continued down the road, but Liam's voice broke the silence again. "We're back in the forest," he said, panic creeping into his tone. None of us wanted to believe him, but soon we were surrounded by the twisted trees once more. Then we passed a diner with a flickering neon sign. It looked exactly like the one we had seen before. Our hearts sank as we realized we were trapped, going in circles. Liam, desperate and frightened, ran to Joe, trying to explain, but we all felt a growing sense of dread. Just then, we saw a wrecked truck on the side of the road, a twisted heap of metal. It was the same one Liam had described. Panic swept through the bus as we realized we were caught in the Wraith's trap, endlessly looping through the dark forest. Joe, shaking, suggested we stop and wait for morning because the Wraith's power would weaken when the sun came up. Liam shared stories his aunt, a horror writer, had told him. She said the Wraith fed on tired travelers and could even possess one of us, making it hard to tell who it was. We began to eye each other nervously, suspicion growing. Liam pointed at Ryan, saying he might be possessed after his earlier scare. Tensions flared as we debated what to do. The bus was running low on fuel, and we were racing against time. As fear gripped us, we realized we might have to make a terrible choice to survive. The question was no longer just who the Wraith might be. It was whether we could hold on until dawn without turning against one another. As the first light of morning began to break, the atmosphere in the bus grew even colder. We knew the Wraith was close, but we weren't sure if the daylight would save us, or if it was already too late. As the first light of dawn filtered through the trees, casting an eerie glow over the bus, we felt a sense of hope mixed with fear. We sat in silence, our breaths shallow, anxiously waiting for the sun to fully rise. The tension in the bus was palpable, and our eyes darted nervously between one another, searching for signs of possession. Suddenly, Ryan's voice broke the stillness. "I can't take this anymore," he shouted, panic etched on his face. "I swear, I'm not the Wraith." His outburst sent a ripple of fear through us. Could any of us truly trust each other? As the sunlight crept closer, we knew time was running out. Then, without warning, the bus engine sputtered and died, plunging us into an uncomfortable silence. Joe cursed under his breath, fumbling with the ignition. "Stay calm, everyone. I'll get it started." But the more he tried, the more desperate we felt. With our hearts racing, Liam suddenly shouted, "It has to be one of us." He pointed at Ryan. "What if he's the Wraith?" Tensions escalated, voices grew louder, and soon we were all shouting over one another, each accusing the other. Fear twisted our minds, making us see shadows where there were none. Just as it seemed chaos would consume us, the bus door swung open. The same man on the motorcycle stood there, his expression grave. "You need to leave," he warned. "The Wraith will come for you if you don't." We hesitated, but the sight of the man's haunted eyes shook us from our panic. In that moment of clarity, we realized we had to band together to survive. "We have to trust each other," Liam shouted, rallying us. "If we work as a team, we can escape." Nervously, we all nodded. With the man guiding us, we stepped out of the bus, leaving behind the dark interior filled with suspicion. We followed him deeper into the woods, the sunlight slowly chasing away the shadows. As we walked, the man told us stories about the Wraith, how it thrived on fear and mistrust. "It feeds on your doubts," he explained. "But when you stand together, it loses its power." The forest, once terrifying, began to feel less oppressive as dawn broke fully. The darkness receded, and we soon spotted a distant road. Our hearts soared at the sight of salvation. We rushed toward the light, our fear dissipating as we left the forest behind. Just as we reached the road, we turned to thank the man, but he had vanished, as if he were a shadow himself. We climbed into the first passing car, grateful to be out of the woods. As we drove away, the bond between us strengthened, forged in the crucible of fear. We vowed never to let mistrust divide us again. Though the Wraith might linger in the shadows, we knew we could face anything together. By the end, some mysteries remain unsolved. Who was the mysterious man? Why did he help them? And are the woods truly free? Or is the Wraith still lurking, waiting for its next prey? Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thrilling tales. Stay tuned, and remember, fear is only as powerful as the doubt we let it create.